Speaking of Amazon being idiots.
Yes. Oh, Lord. Hang on. I'm going to pull this up.
No problem. Go ahead.
All right. The Lord of the Rings of Power showrunners admit they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion or unfinished tales. Joseph, what are they talking about?
They basically do not have the rights to the Second Age, which is what their show is based on.
So they're right.
They only have rights to the Fellowship, the Two Towers, the Return of the King, and the appendices in the Return of the King, which does talk about some of the things in the Second Age, right? Some of the characters and some history and stuff like that. And they also have the rights to The Hobbit, but they don't have the rights to the parts of the Silmarillion they need to do a show. So they basically have to use fan fiction.
So they're going to make up everything that happens, right?
Yes.
Because essentially what you're telling me is that they can't tell the stories that happen in the Second Age. They have to basically make up stuff that was going on around the stories that we have from the Second Age.
Yes, because I still think they can't contradict anything that is established in Tolkien's lore.
Yeah, that was part of it.
But yes, as convoluted as that is. So now we're going to get some Wikipedia fan fiction.
So we're now going to get arguments too. Well, we don't know that Galadriel didn't wear armor in the stuff that wasn't actually mentioned in the Silmarillion during the Second Age. Like, that's going to be the argument, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. We don't know that she didn't chase after anyone who supported Morgoth and Sauron. We don't know. Dude.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a bunch of crap. I mean, imagine being... Okay, David, imagine you're going to spend upward of $1 billion, right? You're going to spend billions of dollars.
Yes.
And you decide, instead of doing something like, you see what, Warner Brothers and New Line, they have the rights to Lord of the Rings as well. And they're going to do animated movie within the confines of the things they have the rights on, so they can tell Tolkien's story, right? You would think that they would have done something similar. And again, I understand they have the appendices, but it doesn't have the whole history there. It doesn't have a majority. It doesn't have enough there for you to work off of, is basically what we're saying. But I think they probably will use that as an excuse at some point if they haven't already yet. So, to be like, to blame it on the Tolkien estate, or to blame, we had to do this because we didn't have the rights, so we couldn't talk about this. It's coming.
Yeah, they're already blaming fans for stuff. So, and this is what's interesting. So it says, bounding in the comics, one wonders why in the world someone would endeavor to bring to live action the Second Age when you don't have the rights to the key materials that document the Second Age. Well, yeah, that makes sense. It's like, why would you try to create in a visual medium something that you don't have the blueprints for it, right? Well, McKay had an answer. There's a version of everything we need for the Second Age in the books we have the rights to. As long as we're painting within those lines and not egregiously contradicting something we don't have the rights to, there's a lot of leeway and room to dramatize and tell some of the best stories that Tolkien ever came up with.
We're just basically saying we can do what we want.
Yeah.
And then pass off the blame. That's what they're going to try to do, because I'm predicting, as others are, that this is going to be a huge flop.
Yeah, and again, we've seen this as the week has gone on, where there are just like people coming out of the woodworks trying to defend the actions of this television show.
Yes, there are.
I know you've seen some of it, and I've seen plenty of it. People just like making the dumbest arguments ever. Where I saw one guy being like, "Oh yeah, you don't like that the dwarf women don't have beards? Well, tell me who the mother of so and so was, and who this person was, and this and this and this." And you're like, dude, but that's not the argument.
Yep, like, that's a straw man.
Yeah,
furthermore, it'd be perfect. You would think that would be a perfect way for them to put in their identity politics of using maybe someone who's transgender or something like that, because you can't tell the dwarves, the men and the women of dwarves, they look the same,
Yeah.
and so you would have thought that would have been a great opportunity. And I could go in more detail, but that's enough on that.
No, I mean it's fine. We if their intentions were actually to try to get people into those roles, right? You might be correct. But you and I both know at this point that they have no interest in the things that they say that they have an interest in. It's all it's all like essentially like
Virtue
checking,
signaling.
and they're checking boxes, right? We talk about
Inclusion writers.
Yeah, the ESG, the ESG and the inclusion writers all the time, where there's this like thing where they're like, okay, well, 50% of the people in front and behind the camera have to look like this. And that's it, right? It has nothing to do with talent. It has nothing to do... And it's not saying that some of these people they get aren't talented. I don't know, right? But when it gets in the way of telling the story that they're trying to tell or being a part of something, they have no respect for what came before. And
so I think we talked about this last week. It's a setting issue, right? And so... and for those who don't know, ESG stands for Environmental Social Governance. I'll let you look that up and you can research it.
Yeah.
But just for those who didn't know, that's what it means.
You know what? We'll put links down below.
Yeah, we can do that. It's a setting issue, right? That's what we talked about. So if they cared about it, they would say, okay, well, Tolkien described Rune. I think he described it in a letter. I want to say that people of Asian descent would come from, right? And then Harad and Khand were more dark-skinned people. Yeah. And so, again, those are logical ways that keep the fan base within your world that you could utilize. Instead, it's just trying to creating token characters and just race swapping or gender swapping, right? And not even that. That's not even the worst thing. The worst thing is now they're going to completely destroy Galadriel's established character history to make her. It's ironic because they want her to be a strong female character, and yet they're going to make her less of that than what Tolkien did. Yeah.
Well, and this is what happens when you put two people with basically zero writing experience in charge of your show. Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne. In the last video, I put images from their IMDb pages. They're exactly the same, by the way, as if they're like the same person, right? It's like one for one exactly the same. And the only notable thing that's on there, besides now this Rings of Power thing, was that they were uncredited writers on Star Trek Beyond.
And if I was them, I would try to get that taken off.
Yeah. But it's like, why them, right?
Yeah.
And it just makes me wonder, why are they in charge? And is someone pulling the strings for them in order to get all of this stuff through? Because they have no established prominence in the industry.
Their agent or agents are the best in the business. I'll tell you that. I don't blame them. I know a lot of people do. I don't really blame. Obviously, there's some things that fall on them, but I don't really put a large part of the blame or care to. I mean, if Amazon came up to me and told me to lead some random, show they're going to create and offered me a ton of money, I'd be like, okay, sure. I'll take all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that I get. And maybe it was just that they
Granted, I'd probably treat it differently.
Yeah,
I'd probably try to study and read and try to create what the author wrote. But
maybe it just depends on. You got to think about it the same way that Disney handles their directors. It's why a lot of them have quit, is because they say you have to stay within these boundaries. And a lot of directors are like, okay, so I can't make this the way that I want to. Is like, I'm out.
Yep.
And that's not what they're doing. And they probably looked at this as a chance to make a giant step up because they thought Lord of the Rings, this is going to automatically be successful. What they didn't realize, and I think you should give them more blame than you are, especially because they are the showrunners.
Yeah, that's true.
This is their show. In the same way, oh man, I can't even remember the guys from Game of Thrones at this point. Like, they deserve the blame for the way that Game of Thrones went because they were the showrunners. They were the face of that show. They were out there talking about it all the time, about the respect that they were going to give to the show. And after season 4-ish, somewhere in there, it started going downhill. And then everybody started turning on them after a while because they it lost all of its charm and character and what people were there to see in the first place. And you may not even get that from the start from Rings of Power.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I guess basically what I'm saying, I think that Amazon and Jeff Bezos and everyone who decided to hire them, right, should have equal blame along with McKay and Payne and the bad reboot.
Yeah. J.J. Abrams, his fingerprints are on this, man.
Oh yeah,
they are, because they are
the
disciples of his.
Is part of the production team.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, that was one of the early red flags. It's been so long now that I forgot that Jar Jar Abrams, the bad reboot, or the bad robot for people who don't know, they're called the bad robot. I call them the bad reboot because, and other people do. It's not like that originated with me. I heard Nerdrotic say it. I heard some other people say it too, because they do a bad job of rebooting
everything.
Movies, TV shows,
Star Trek,
music too,
Star Wars. The only thing that they get credit for is like season 1 and 2 of Lost. And maybe 3, because I still kind of liked 3, at least parts of it. But yeah, they other than that, everything that they get their hands on seems to just get absolutely demolished.
Yep.
So, and I think Abrams is headed for DC. That's right.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah. Abrams
DC wasn't bad enough, so they're like, how can we go lower?
Yes. How can we make this even worse? Yeah. Well. Man, we're so it's September 2nd, correct? That's when the show releases. So
dead on arrival.
We'll see, man. We'll see.
And did you get in my comment? People were like, "What do we do? What do Tolkien fans do who want to protect his work and everything?" And I said there are alternative means to watching this show if you're so interested in seeing how atrocious it was. Did
you see my reply?
What was your reply?
Because you put all those pirate flags, and I went, in Minecraft. He means in Minecraft.
Yeah, that's right. I did see that.
All right.
Oh man, or watching with your friends. Like consolidating. That way, they don't get like.
Oh, exactly. Everybody kind of has their. We'll just say this: you all have your own morals or what you want to do and able to watch the show and how you feel about going about doing that. You can go about the more shady direction, or you can not watch it, or you can watch our coverage or other people's coverage of the episodes so that you get a general idea without having to actually give money. Or Joseph is right. There's things like Watch Together where if one person still has Prime, because listen, everybody has Prime for other reasons besides watching this show.
Right.
So if someone has Prime, but you're just like, I can't support giving them money anymore. This is like that final straw. Use something like Watch Together and set that up, and you can all have like a watch party together.
Exactly.
It's absolutely possible, and that seems to be good advice without going into shady territory. So
yeah, exactly.
It's up to you guys.
For me, I'm going to be watching it on Prime. I'm going to try and have people over to do it. That way they're not watching it on Prime. And it's kind of like what we used to do back in the day with, not that we hated The Walking Dead, but when we used to have people over for The Walking Dead, remember that? When Instagram, I think, first came out and we were trending. Our apartment was trending. Do you remember that? Yeah. So yeah, just have people over. And if you want to go that route, or use Watch Together like David mentioned, or just not watch it and don't support them, it's okay. You can miss something.
Yeah, you can.
There's plenty of things I miss because I'm not watching that trash anymore. Star Wars is one of them. David suffers through that for this podcast.
Oh man, yeah, this Obi-Wan stuff is looking it's looking rough, man. But that's a conversation for another time.
The jangling keys.
The jangling keys, man. Yep. That's catching on too. People are starting to use that more.
It is.